Israel and the Galilee on the 19th of December. It's 9:06, I think, in the morning here. For us, it's cold but sunny. It's going to probably be in the 60s today. It's 62 already. Let's see what we're going to get up to. 71 today. Since sunny, it'll warm up nicely. I don't see any rain in sight. They're saying Monday 60%, but other than that, then Saturday they got a 35% chance of rain. But the weather's going to get colder um, starting tomorrow. We're going to start having lows in the low 60s. That's the middle of our winter, but not that long. And then it's going to start coming up to close to 70. I don't know, low 60s. It's going to be chilly for a while. No rain, though, which is very unusual. I don't know why. It would affect the fighting in various theaters in the Middle East area, the rain. I don't know what's going on with the rain. We have to ask the Lord. All right, so what I'm going to do today is show you that there's an obvious roadmap what America and Israel are doing in the Middle East. And you would have to add the UK in, but the UK is more or less a follow along with America. And I'm going to show you what they're doing in a way that you're going to say, oh, gee, yeah, that makes sense, right? And then it all leads to attacking Iran. Okay, and I'm going to show you why. And it leads to BRICS again, Iran and Russia. And Saudi Arabia is making an about face now. They're saying that they want to go to normalization with Israel without a Palestinian state. And right after they said that, I think a day or two later, last night, Israel and America attacked Yemen again. I'm not sure if Israel was in the attack like 3 days ago, but another attack. It was a substantial attack, and I'll explain it to you as we go on. And the Yemen Houthi rebels in Yemen attacked the Harry Truman aircraft carrier while it was crossing the Suez Canal. So I think it was not highly maneuverable when crossing the Suez Canal. America will not tell you that the ship got damaged or there were casualties, but the Houthis are acting like they got a good hit. And they may have hit the destroyers with it, I don't know. The America's not talking and the Houthis are talking, but I don't know. Do I think the Houthis really attacked the Harry Truman aircraft carrier? Yeah. Do I know if they hit it and damaged it? I don't know. It could go either way. Okay. But they're not stopping, and then they threatened to hit Israel's power plants this morning, I think. So we're going to get into all this, and I'm going to show you what they're doing in a way that you're really going to understand it. It's obvious, and nobody else is talking about this. But remember, I was right on the drones. I was telling you it was from China and why, and then finally they're admitting it now. But this business that I'm looking for nukes using drones, it's absurd. It's just absolutely absurd. Why look at night, turn the lights on, it's so ridiculous, and they looked at it. What, 12 states, 15 states on dozens of military bases? Come on. It's absurd. They weren't just looking at military bases. And the amount of so-called nuclear material that's nuclear medicine stuff, they're saying that couldn't make any bomb with that or anything like that. You got to stop worrying about the nukes because it's one of two ways. They don't have them. And if that's the case, it's obvious. If they do have them and they never use them, I mean, why do you think they're going to start using them now? I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. It really doesn't. Okay, so let me go into the live stream, make sure we got sound and picture, and then we'll get started. They're going to start using them now. We've got sound and picture. People are coming in. Thank you for all the greetings. Okay, let me put my posts up there, which takes a few seconds while people are still coming in. If I talk, I get typos. And let me do my email address up there. Getting that up. Okay, I'm going to start with doing some praise and then we'll go. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 All right, let's start last night. There was big hit in the capital Yemen is Sana'a, Saana. America and the UK and Israel hit Sana'a yesterday. They destroyed the tugboats, for instance, in that port city that they used to bring tanker ships into the dock, and I guess they load the tanker ships up with oil and then they ship out because Yemen does have oil. So um, they were destroyed, and the power plants were destroyed. I think four or more power plants were destroyed, and other targets. So, is this going to stop the Houthis? Emphatically, no. Does America and Israel know it's not going to stop the Houthis? Of course, they know that. But what will it do? It will do what the Arab media says it's going to do. The Arab media didn't comment on the strike, but before the strike, they said that America, Israel, and so probably the UK as well, are trying to get the Yemen government, which has their own army of about 67,000, which is probably smaller, less than half of what the Houthis have. But the Yemen regular army has some aircraft and tanks and things that the Houthis are very, very limited in. The Houthis are more or less like a Hezbollah, and the Yemen government is more like the government of Lebanon, which has an army. And this is so obvious. Israel just started bombing the daylights in Lebanon, okay, hitting Houthi targets, which were built up for almost 20 years. And the Hezbollah targets, and the Hezbollah had moved into South Lebanon in civilian clothes with their wife and kids. They got money, I guess, and bought homes. Homes are not that expensive in South Lebanon, and moved in. And then they started putting missiles and anti-tank rockets and all kinds of weapons inside their houses with their wife and kids. Okay, so we basically demolished South Lebanon. Okay, it looks like Gaza. That's going up to the Litani River, about 17, 18 miles. practically all the homes and everything else are damaged. So when you do that, the water typically goes, the sewer lines, roads get damaged, traffic lights, road signs get busted out, all the whole bit. It's like Gaza. And eventually, after we also struck all over Lebanon as well, hitting targets of Hezbollah. Then finally, after we invaded up to the Litani River, the Lebanese government figured that if they didn't get on the bandwagon and stop the Hezbollah, there would be no Lebanon. So this is not the end of the fight in Lebanon, nor Gaza, nor Syria. It's an interim stage. You have to understand. Okay? It's not finished. So what happened is Israel kept telling them, come on, put your army in South Lebanon and keep Hezbollah out. Because we ran most of them out, okay? We also just found out there's 1,000 to 1,500 Hezbollah that are MIA, they're missing in action. So they could be dead under the rubble, we don't know. They could have just ran away, defected, but probably dead, okay? Probably dead. In addition to others, so we maybe we got up to 8,000 dead Hezbollah, maybe. Okay, that's with the pagers and the walkie-talkies blowing up, and not that many. Okay, figure they had about 50,000, so they still got a lot of them. But I think a lot of them just gave up on it, and they took the uniform off, and that's it. But some of them are diehards. They're not launching at us anymore. We got them down, way down in their effectiveness, and they're not launching. And they got the Lebanese army in there. And the Lebanese army, now we're still there also, but not that, maybe not as much as we were, 2 or 3 weeks ago. And we're still striking targets every day that Hezbollah has. So basically, it's a good deal for Israel because we get to blow their targets up and they don't do anything to us, and we keep whittling them down. Because we know the threat. It's still there. The game is not so much to kill them, but heavy emphasis on demilitarize them by destroying their weapons. Now, these terrorists, psychotics, lunatics, murderers, head choppers, whatever you want to call them, like Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, Hezbollah, Houthis, they stop when they're dead, obviously. If you severely wound them, they stop. I mean, severely. And, in other words, they can't fight anymore. Even when they're out of the hospital, they can't fight anymore. And the other way you stop them is to destroy all their weapons. Now, nobody's very worried about them running around with pistols and rifles. That's not a big threat that we care about very much. So that's what we basically did, and we're still in process finishing it up with Hezbollah. So the pressure, due to the destruction of the country, forced the Lebanese army, the regular army, to come in, start to abide by the UN mandate, and stop it by keeping them away from Israel. Okay? And now how long this will last and how long it'll work, I don't know. Okay? And then we took over a lot of land in Syria near Lebanon, especially the crossing where they would go, where Hezbollah would go with weapons from Syria, which could be Iranian, Russian, manufactured in Syria by Iran or Assad or whatever. And we are occupying that. We stop the flow. There's not weapons coming in. Now, you know, they could sneak in the woods with an AK-47. You know, that's not our major concern. You know, but you can't sneak in the woods with a 400-pound rocket. I mean, you know, what are you gonna? You know, I mean, unless you're 6'6" and you bench press, you know, 900 pounds, then maybe you could, you know, 3 or 4 guys could drag around. But I mean, it's silly. They can't do it. Then you need the launcher for the rocket and all that. Okay, so the game in Yemen is the same game. Yes, there's no UN mandate there, but who cares? The Lebanese army didn't care about the UN mandate one way or the other. What they cared about is the damage done in South Lebanon was likely going to creep all the way up into Beirut, including Beirut, and then Sidon and Tyrus and other cities in Lebanon. And they got the idea the hard way that they had to play by the rules. So along comes Yemen, and they have a regular Yemen government. But the Houthis operate freely, and the Yemen government doesn't tell them what to do. And they're sort of on the same side, but the regular Yemen army is not overtly launching any ordnance at ships in the Red Sea nor firing at Israel. Yemen just hit a brick wall, and they don't know it yet. Okay? Remember that the only way they stop fighting is when they have no weapons to fight with, or, in other words, demilitarized, or they're dead or severely injured so they can't function as a soldier. There's no other way. And the Iranians are not very much different than them, except they got a nice country that they want to develop, to keep, you know. Okay. Yeah, Iran also has another problem with the revolution, and Netanyahu is openly getting on TV, and I imagine he's also doing announcements in Farsi and social media, and I don't know where else. You can't get on the Iranian TV station. The mullahs control that, you know. And he's telling them now's your golden opportunity to rise up against Iran. Now, I'll digress briefly. I don't think a revolutionary effort in Iran is necessarily going to overthrow the government unless the Taliban in Afghanistan, next door in the east of Iran, decided to help them, which I don't see. So I'm not seeing signs of that at all. They're not going to go in and help the rebels because the rebels will fail. What Iran will do is what China did in Tiananmen Square. Right? There's no doubt about it, okay? The revolutionaries will start. Now, if they're stupid, but revolutions often start this way, they'll gather in groups of thousands, maybe tens of thousands, and start protesting, and then they'll psych up. Throw rocks, Molotovs, try to get the jump on soldiers and beat them, take their guns, maybe not, I don't know. And the end result of that is going to be Iran is going to use police snipers to start shooting them. I guarantee you they'll do this. If that doesn't work, and they still start doing this, and then, you know, eventually what this leads to is they start storming government buildings and they burn them. Okay? They're not going to be dumb enough to try to hold a position because Iran will come with 6 tanks or 20 tanks and they'll start shooting artillery into the buildings, and that's that. Okay? Or they'll use chemical weapons like a tear gas or another kind of military gas that can cause vomiting and diarrhea, instant diarrhea and instant vomiting. Or, you know, use chlorine gas, which I doubt they'll do. unless they're super desperate. Okay, so essentially, the doing the protests and stuff isn't going to do much good. It might help them grow their ranks because more and more people will be less afraid and join them when they see them out in the streets saying they want to cut the mullah's head off and they want to burn the hajibs, and stuff like that. So where are all the women rights people from the Vietnam War days in America? They're silent, aren't they? Women get hit with stabs publicly, 20, 40 times, whatever they want to give her, for not wearing a hijab. Now, they don't sit there and smack the woman and cause blood welts. They do it rather mildly. It's more intended for severe humiliation than it's intended to have the person lay in bed for a week or two before they can walk around again, okay? Which they might do to a man. So, no women, because the women's rights people were active in America to change America and make a lot of issues in America. At the same time, you had the North American Indians, like the Lost Tribes, take over Alcatraz Island and live on it for some weeks. That was the prison off the water of San Francisco. It's, I don't know, maybe it's 4 or 5 miles from San Francisco, maybe less. And it was closed as a prison sometime in the 60s, and then they occupied. I've been in the prison, I think, twice. They run tours there, and even though I lived in San Francisco, when I went, you didn't need to make an appointment, and now it's a mob scene. But back then, you just showed up, you bought a ticket. It was, I don't know, $3. The U.S. Park Service did it, and they contracted with guys to have big ferry boats that would run you out there. So it was a pleasant trip out there. And you go on a nice day, you don't go on a cold, nasty, rainy day, and they'd walk you around the island. This is where the warden lived, the guards lived, and they took you into jail, and they showed you the dining room, and they had the Christmas menu posted, and they showed you the cells, and they explained how it works, and they showed you the showers, and then they showed you the solitary confinement. And they used to take a group of us, the tourists, I was a tourist, put us in this solitary confinement cell and lock us in. And they lock you in for, it was either 15 or 30 seconds. It was quick, okay? And they told you how shocking it was to brace yourself before they did it. Now, they wouldn't lock you in and throw the ball. They would just close the door. If you pushed it, it would open, And it was, you had a regular bars, and then you had a solid metal door. The floor was metal. It had a hole in the floor for a toilet. And they fed them, I don't know, baby food or bread and water. I don't know exactly. I guess they had different ideas about how to do that. As time rolled on, and the offense of the prisoner. And I don't remember them saying they used baby food. When I was a deputy sheriff in California, I was not a corrections officer, deputy sheriff. I worked in a jail, and when we put guys in solitary, we gave them baby food, but we had to have a physician check them before, and then I think every other day or something, or every day, where they had to check them. And we gave them Beech Nut Junior baby food, which was about that wide, and about that. It's what you give a 2-year-old maybe, or a 1.5-year-old. I don't know how many jars we gave them a day, but they wouldn't starve to death, and they had water, and it wasn't a solid metal door, and they had a toilet, and they had a cot with a little mattress on it and stuff like that. They had a sink in the back of the toilet, at the top, or whatever. And it wasn't anywhere that what Alcatraz. Alcatraz was brutal. And they had a silence rule in Alcatraz, so they couldn't even talk most of the time. And then they had the island, well, they would take them outside, I don't know how many hours a day, and they would all look at San Francisco, and it's beautiful in the bay there. They look around, and it was cold. You had bad wind out there, so it was pretty nippy. And they gave them Navy pea jackets, and they gave them a Navy watch cap. And a pea jacket would be, it's solid wool, and it's more than sufficient. To keep it. It wasn't that cold. It wasn't freezing ever or anything like that. I never heard of Alcatraz taking snow. San Francisco every 8 or 10 years would take a quarter-inch of snow. Going up and down those hills is rather treacherous in the snow. I remember going down Russian Hill towards the cannery of Geopolitics Square in that area with the cable car tracks going down with some very, very light snow on the ground, and it was a little scary, but I had Michelin tires that were good to use in the snow, but it still was a little scary. I did fine, but I remember it to this day, and it was, 50 years ago or something. It was pretty hairy. So they took that over. Anyway, I digress. So, the Indians were protesting, the blacks were protesting, the women were protesting, and other groups were protesting. And but the women's rights disappeared because they were being driven by Satan. And Satan has chosen people as the Muslims because they want it. Their narrative is they gotta kill Israel, or Israel's gonna have a false Messiah called the Dajjal that's gonna tell the Israelites to kill all the Muslims and destroy the Dome of the Rock and put a temple up. It's loosely structured on Scripture, but it's of course very deviant from the Scripture. So that's important for what's going to happen to America, I would think. Okay, and I'll open that for you soon. All right. So the emphasis now is no longer on Lebanon or Gaza. Gaza's demilitarized essentially. Okay. Lebanon is not entirely demilitarized as far as the Houthis go, but it's extremely demilitarized. And they're doing every day more and more strikes. So as a week or two goes on, there's going to be substantially much less and less and less. So it's a one-way ceasefire in favor of Israel. Now, Gaza is getting motivated to talk about a peace plan or a ceasefire with Israel. And they're not insisting that Israel immediately depart from Gaza and that Israel does not let the Rafah crossing thing open. Well, the Rafah area open with Egypt so they can smuggle more weapons in. They're not asking to have any piers for ships to pull up or any airports or anything like that. They're talking about roughly 40 hostages now. And it goes, they gave the names to Israel, they didn't give the names to Israel. They probably gave names, but there's a little vagueness in the reports on that. And they want Israel to return a certain number of terrorist prisoners in our prison for each hostage. Now, I don't know if it's 1 for 1, or they're going to say they want 10 for 1, or 100 for 1, or 1,000 for 1, or whatever. I don't know. But Israel is very likely not going to do that. Trump didn't say, I want you to give back all the hostages, and I don't care if you make Israel give you 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 terrorist prisoners. What Trump says, I want all those hostages returned before January 20th, or you're going to have hell to pay. Now, they're not coming up with all the hostages. They're coming up with a 42-day or 6-week ceasefire, okay? And after the ceasefire, they're saying Israel can remain in Gaza, but not in the highly populated areas. Now, in that period of time, Israel's not going to be doing airstrikes, missile strikes, helicopter strikes, artillery strikes, or getting into gunfights with the Hamas. So it gives Hamas a chance to make a rally to organize their own people and let the um, Gazan civilians know they're still in control. They've got a pretty decent amount of machine guns and pistols, enough for everybody, plus ammo. And they have probably some anti-tank missiles and RPGs, okay? I don't know how many, probably not that many, but they do exist. So they could terrorize the citizens of Gaza, and they also want more they want the humanitarian aid beefed up. Okay, that's the essential of what they want. Now, what Israel is probably going to come back at them with is, you're never going to be controlling Gaza. Well, what Israel's best move is to get the hostages back first. So Israel knows what Trump said. So Israel's going to say no. You want a 6-week ceasefire. The hostages is a war crime. If we give you a hostage exchange with terrorist prisoners, we're supporting your war crime. And Trump will probably back that. Give them all back. It was a war crime, or there's no ceasefire. That's what I expect will happen in some way, shape, or form. Now, Netanyahu's under pressure to get the hostages back. But he also knows that Hamas doesn't want to find out what happens January 21st, because the swearing in is the 20th, okay? So what I expect you're going to see from Hamas is this. They're going to drag this thing out and probably get into a ceasefire with all the hostages returned on or about someplace between the 15th and the 19th of January. They're going to cut it to the wire. They're going to negotiate for the best deal they can get their hands on. And then they're going to take what they can get. And Netanyahu knows that. The Israel government knows that. So I would be shocked if they came up with a ceasefire immediately. Now, they're very brokenhearted, you could say, right now with the press, because they're demilitarized, Hezbollah's demilitarized, Yemen can't do anything meaningful to Israel, and Syria fell, and it's no longer a threat, and Iraq is sitting there on pins and needles, hoping they can hold their borderline with Syria, which we'll get into. So, the Houthis, before the attack last night, fired on, I think the day before, fired on the Harry Truman aircraft carrier with drones, cruise missiles, ballistic missiles. They threw the kitchen sink at it. Okay? That's not making America feel happy. If they don't respond to this, the American soldiers' morale is going to fall apart. That's best case. Worst case is American soldiers are going to start, hating the Biden administration and looking forward to the Trump administration, and they may get ugly, and ugly could be not follow orders correctly, completely, or thoroughly. I don't know. So there was an airstrike with the UK and America, and Israel hit also in Yemen. So Yemen got the kitchen sink last night. Okay, we hit Lebanon, and then we hit Yemen in one day, and America and them hit them. Now, what the game plan is in Yemen is to start busting up Yemen, and they're busting up the capital. at least 4 power generators went. So that means there's a lot of civilians in Sana'a, the capital of Yemen, without power. It's it's not that cold, wintry down there, but they got hit. Okay, and the message is clear to Yemen, although it's not coming out in the media other than the Muslim media, the terrorist oriented Muslim media, that the pro Iranian, for instance, those people, they're um, understanding that the pressure is being built on the government of Yemen to understand what happened to Lebanon is going to happen to them. And you can't apply that to Gaza because Hamas was the government and the psychotic terrorists at the same time. Not the case in Lebanon, and not the case in Yemen. So what they would probably want the government of Yemen to do is demilitarize the Houthis, take their weapons away. The government of Yemen, their intelligence police, military know where their weapons depots and bases and all this stuff is. Okay? So, will this work or not? Chances are it's going to work as a temporary interim solution, like I said. Okay? They're not ready to do it yet. It's going to take a lot more airstrikes, I expect. Or maybe the next round of airstrikes is going to make the Yemen government realize that if they don't stop, there's going to be, hundreds of billions of dollars of damage in Yemen. And it's going to take years to repair it. And they always risk a civil war when this sort of stuff happens. The people would start saying, what do we care about Hamas for? Why should we sacrifice our country over this Israel conflict? I mean, where are we going to live? We'll be living in tent cities, which is true. So, maybe not, because the strikes are going to be limited to strategic tactical targets, not houses. But striking power stations to make electricity is not exactly just a military target. It's also a civilian target. So it's getting ugly for the government of Yemen. And they gotta, there's cities that the Houthis don't control, and there's cities that they, but you can bet your bottom dollar that they got ammo depots in cities they're not controlling as well. So what is going to happen is these attacks are going to step up again. For one reason, the Houthis turned around and said, we're going to blow up Israel's power generators now. So Israel says, well, they haven't learned a lesson. Then Israel's going to do more airstrikes. And America and the UK will too, because they know that the Houthis are going to keep shooting at with missiles, drones, naval drones, everything they got, at civilian vessels and warships. And Israel is telling the Houthis that they're going to force them to stop doing that as well. And the Houthis keep striking Israel. Israel's telling them, basically, we're going to return to you everything you try to do us. The message is your missiles and drones don't get in, but ours do. There's no air defenses of any practical value they have in Yemen that are going to take down, Israeli, American, or UK jets. So they're up the creek right now. Is this going to mean an invasion of Yemen. Yemen gets destroyed. It's Edom in the Bible. It could be that um, the Yemen government sides with the Houthis and are afraid of them and just say we'll stand united. And you don't necessarily have to have a invasion with a lot of bombs. You could accomplish it. We hit them with 14 jets last night. That could easily be 100. They're 1,700 kilometers away. And the same night we hit Lebanon, but not that many jets. We did hit it. And we're still hitting targets in Syria, but very light amount. Most of the targets are gone. I would say the Assad military infrastructure, weapons bases, and so forth is probably 90% defunct. Okay? Now, why does America and Israel want to get the Houthis in Yemen out of the way? Because Iran has threatened numerous times to attack the oil-producing countries in the Middle East, which is a plethora. Saudi, well, you have Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar or Qatar, Oman, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia. I said Saudi Arabia. So you have all of that could get hit. But the Houthis have on 2 occasions in the last, 18 months or so, hit the Aramco oil facility in Saudi Arabia with missiles, which is the Saudis' largest oil facility. The first time, I think, one missile, it took a few days to restore the functioning, and then some weeks later, they hit them with 2 or 3 missiles, I think 2, and it took the Saudis, I think, a little more than a week to get it back online. So if they really decided to do a serious attack with swarms of drones, ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, this and that, they could probably cause the Aramco oil facility to go down for months, as well as possibly other oil refineries in Saudi Arabia, and they could start engaging in terrorist attacks. They may have tunnels into Syria, into Saudi Arabia from inside Yemen, and this all could be the case. They've got close proximity to Saudi Arabia, not Israel. They're on the border. So the idea is to neutralize Yemen now, so when the attack in Iran happens, Yemen doesn't do much of anything, let alone start knocking out the oil in Saudi Arabia, or maybe trying for Jordan as well. And this is the game plan. So all the roads are leading to Iran. The proxies need to be dismantled so Iran can't direct them to attack Israel and the oil-producing countries, causing an oil price crisis where oil goes to $300, $400, $500 a barrel and cripples many countries, specifically America, Europe, Central, South America, parts of Africa, Middle East, and so forth. They don't want that, okay? Iran has threatened that on numerous occasions. Okay? So, Yemen is going to be taking more hits until they can be busted out. I don't see any signs of a revolution in Yemen at this point. The other proxy that needs dealing with regarding attacking Iran is Iraq. Now, Iraq is sitting on the border with Syria, biting their nails, their fingernails, afraid of these resurfacing. So we're watching the road to destroying Iran. Now, Syria, I'm getting reports that I think are true that civilian Israelis are going into Syria. I think I heard them even in Damascus. Now, number one, I have no intention of trying this, and I don't think any Israeli should. It's stupid. Okay? But it tells me that there's a chance. Now, some Israelis also went up into Lebanon. I don't know what they were doing. I believe they had to walk over the border. They were probably going there to see what the damage was or something. They got caught and they got arrested. I don't think anything will really happen to them. Basically, they'll get booked and then it'll be, you know, the next, it'd be like a restraining order. And if you do this again, you go to jail, I think. They weren't going there, as far as I could tell, with weapons trying to kill anybody or anything like that. Were they trying to loot? There's a chance, but I don't think so. People were going to Syria to, like, you know, have a falafel with some hummus and eat over there and play tourist sightseeing. Now, is this a sign of easing into the world that this area of Syria that could be like 40 miles in, roughly, now is our territory and may as well get used to it? And Netanyahu is saying they're going to hold that as a minimum through the end of 2025. He's not leaving, you know. Using Bible prophecy, I don't know if we'll ever leave. We may temporarily leave, but it'll come back, you know. So remember, we're in a temporary phase now, which I believe is when the temple appears in Malachi 3 and Elijah begins working with the Levites, training them to do the offerings you're making acceptable to the Lord. This is a break that Israel gets. Now, that's not to say NATO and Russia aren't going to be kicking each other's teeth out while this is going on. I'm not saying that at all. That I expect. Okay? Just here with Israel. Okay? Now, I don't think we're quite there yet because we've got at least two psychotic lunatic countries that need to be deactivated from presenting a threat to Israel, and that is Yemen and Iraq. And Yemen is well into progress now. America and UK hit them about 3-4 days ago, then they hit them again, and you know it's picking up. And the Houthis are putting kerosene on the fire by trying to take out American warships. And this again is like serial killer psychotic mentality. How can the Houthis possibly win against America? America has many hundreds of warplanes in the Middle East, probably 12, 15 warships, probably now 18 or something. And Israel, look, forget America. Israel can go every day and bomb Yemen freely and just create paths of destruction. Take, you know, work on a good sized city for 3 days, work on another one for 3 days, another one. And eventually Yemen becomes a ruinous heap, but Yemen becomes a wasteland, like Daughter of Babylon winds up when you read Jeremiah 49, which happens to coincidentally precede Jeremiah 50, right? Okay, take the clue. These events are going to trigger the Daughter of Babylon destruction with the Muslim states, the United Arab League probably, or something like that, okay? Or another organization. the Arab world is seeing the writing on the wall. Okay? Got it? Gaza, Lebanon, Syria. Although Syria is being run by Muslims, it's a ruse. The Muslims are saying, you know, the HTS that's running Syria now, the Al Qaeda, ISIS with a new paint job, are saying that they're going to come get China now. They said it. They really did yesterday or this morning. That they're going to come, they said next we're going to get China. How in the world would that happen? I don't know. The Houthis are going to get China? What are they going to do? I mean, the distance alone. You think China's border is open and a bunch of Muslims? China does not like Muslims. Celebrating these Muslim holidays, the one with the violent, I forgot the name of it, every year, is illegal in China. They don't, if the Muslims want to get together and play, you know, the mosque, it has to be approved by the Chinese government, which almost none are, and then they make sure they probably have intelligence agents sitting around listening to the sermons and anything pertaining to violence, and they're going to shut the place down. So they're getting whitewashed Islam mosques, you know. Ramadan is the holiday. They can't observe it. Japan, too, has the brains to not let the Muslims start in Japan. It's a theme nations would do well to understand. So China is not on good terms with the Muslim world. Okay? No, the Muslims will take their missiles, rockets, and protection and stuff like that, but they're not on good terms. So they're seeing the daughter of Babylon, America, rising, and they're seeing Trump as a severe threat. Because what does Trump care about the Middle East for? Because Trump wants the control of that oil, and he wants to break BRICS. And that's obvious. Putting 100% tariffs on countries working with BRICS to sell oil and natural gas without using the dollar or the euro, using the BRICS pay system and the BRICS money is not something that Trump takes lightly at all, because he knows the devastating damage economically it would put on America. And they want this. They don't want to listen to the United States. They want secret banking like it was in, I could tell you in the very early, not like 1992-ish, in Israel, you were able to go to, as a foreigner, I believe, you were able to go to the Israeli bank, walk in off the street. Hi, my name is John Smith from Idaho, and I'd like to open up a bank with you, Bank Leumi, or whatever the, you know, there's about 8 or 9 banks here. And I want a numbered account. And they said, well, yeah, you got to see the manager for that. The manager comes out and says, hey, come on, sit down. Would you like some coffee, espresso, something to eat, or pastry or something? No, yeah, with coffee, okay. So what is it you want to do? Well, I want to have a numbered account. Okay. How much money do you want to put in? Well, I'm going to open the account with 10,000, and I'd probably put about $250,000, $500,000 in. Okay. And this is how it works, Mr. Smith from Idaho. You give me your passport, and I make a photocopy of it here right in front of you. I give you your passport back, and then I take that photocopy and I put it in my safe here at the branch. That's the only copy of it in my safe, the manager's safe here. And it's a secure safe, you know. And you have a numbered account. So you can receive funds directed to account number AZ123456789. okay? And you could work in back then, it was maybe as much as 7 currencies you were able to work in, okay? And you'll have passwords, to communicate on the phone with us. They have various, they have rolling passwords. They could set up with people back then, like if the day of the transaction or when you were contacting was an odd number, you use one passport. If it was an even password, an even number, a different one. Different ways. They were also able to do it with faxes by putting certain disguised passwords in the fax that were hidden, you know, and they would execute transactions for you. So you were able to bank out of Israel. And Israel eventually caught a lot of heat over this and they had to knock it off. Now, if you went back to the 80s, you were able to walk into an Israeli bank or a Swiss bank or an Austrian bank or many different, jurisdictions in Europe and Hong Kong and other places, and say, yeah, I need to open up an account. Okay, what do you want? Oh, I need a numbered account. Okay. Did you have to show your passport? Well, depends how far back you went. If you went into the 70s, no. And you were able to walk in with a suitcase or an attaché case. Here's my opening deposit, $193,000. You'd have the same setup in these banks also. Okay, so the world with BRICS is going to go back to that. They're going to just have anonymous banking again. It's America that stopped it, nobody else, and Obama really polished it off. But it was the Americans that were against it. Most of the other countries enjoyed it. Europeans had numbered accounts all the time. There was no restrictions as to how much cash you could put in or take out. They want to get away from America weaponizing the banking, and America is very wrong for doing this, okay? That's what you get when you're the hammer of the whole earth and the great voice. So they want to go back to free banking, okay? Which BRICS also has credit cards, debit cards. So they have it set up with many chains of stores in many countries. So you put your money in the BRICS banking, and they're going to let consumers do this. And you get a debit card, and you can walk around, and you can anonymously or quite confidentially, I expect, wire money into the BRICS, and then go make purchases with a debit card. Now, I don't know if Visa wouldn't do it, neither would MasterCard. It's their own system. And there's 2 depository banks, you could say, in BRICS, in Beijing and Moscow. China is not the main enemy of BRICS because China is a consumer of energy, not a seller. The same with India. So the 2 biggest countries in the world that make up a good 3 billion plus people are consumers of energy, not sellers. So if you knock out Iran and Russia, BRICS is going to fall apart. The UAE will cave in. They get blown about in the wind. They're in BRICS, but they blow about in the wind. Now Saudi Arabia is saying, yeah, we'll normalize relations with our Jewish friends in Israel. By the way, thank you for blowing up the Houthis. Keep it up, and we'll make a really good deal with you. Now, I don't see, maybe you do, but I don't see any advantages with normalizing with Saudi Arabia. What would the advantage be? It's a Muslim majority country with hajibs and all that. What are you going to go there as a tourist for? What are you going to do? What would you do in Saudi Arabia? Nothing. I don't know why, we would do business deals with them. Okay, yes. So what? So what? Would the Saudis buy all kinds of weapons from us? You gotta be kidding. They'd inhale our weapons. They'd suck up all the weapons we could sell them. Would that give Israel a big cash injection? Yeah, you got to remember that Israel taxes these countries massively, these companies like 50%. You know, huge taxes. And well, with corporations, it's 23%. So that money goes into the Israel coffers, which finds its way towards roads, hospitals, schools, weapons, and so forth, right? So the Saudis would love to get, iron domes all over the place and, other stuff. They buy all kinds of stuff for us, intelligence gear for eavesdropping and, that kind of thing. Cyber warfare stuff, all kinds of stuff, you know, right? So the Saudis are coming into line, in my mind, when Trump gets sworn in. Remember, he did the sword dance with them when he got sworn in the last time. So they trust Trump. They don't trust Biden. Biden's worthless. His word is as good as nothing. So they're afraid they hook their wagon to Biden's cart, and then Biden drives them off a cliff. So that's why the Saudis stopped selling oil in US dollar and euro, because they didn't want to get the wrath of Iran. But they didn't join BRICS either. They're holding out for Trump, in my opinion, and I think I got this right. And then when they see Trump seated in the Oval Office, they'll normalize with Israel to get with Trump, because they think Trump's valuable and Trump would support them and help them if they help him. And Trump will visit them, they might even visit Trump, and they'll shake hands and they'll get along, and then they'll make deals. They will. They will. Does that mean you're going to see Starbucks and Walmart and all these other stores popping up? Burger King and Pizza Hut. And maybe, I don't know. You might see them. The government is very fond of having these chains open up multiple locations in other countries. They like that. It might happen. Saudi doesn't care. People are going to buy their food from somebody. They don't give a hoot. There might be 3 or 4 supermarket chains in Saudi Arabia that have a big, grip on the market, but that's life. They'll have to live with it. I better go into the chat and see what kind of garbage I got to throw out. The Houthis eat this stuff called God. It's something they chew. It's stimulant, and it gets them a little Looney Tunes, or pretty Looney Tunes. But they're crazy. I think without this stuff, they're still psychotic. There's people in South America that chew coca leaf. Cocaine comes from coca leaf, and that gets them not so crazy. I had a friend that was a doctor, and he went to, I don't know what country, maybe it was Argentina. There's places you could buy cocaine tea in South America, maybe Central America too. And you could get cocaine tea, and he said it doesn't get you, stimulated like the cocaine. They go up the nose or inject. It doesn't do that, he says. But if you're at high altitude, like 10,000 feet, where the oxygen is in the air, it's going to keep you from getting woozy and stuff like that. It does have a stimulant effect. But in a lot of these countries, the populace in general chews the leaves. They roll them up and stick them in their mouth and keep them there a long time, like a plug of chewing tobacco. You know, they stick it in what they used to call it. In the '60s, the cops used to use it. It was it had a picture of a North American Indian in kind of a white packet with a red ink, kind of red and gray or black or something. And I want to say Iron Man, but it wasn't that. It was very. There was three or four. And they would take a big slug of it and stick it in their mouth and bolt out, and they'd keep it in there, and they had to spit every minute or two. It was pretty gross, you know. But they do it with the coca leaf. It rots their teeth and their gums, and that gives them a serious stimulant effect. Now, in the old days, before the Drug Control Acts in America, which were 1917, 1918, around that time, main was Coca-Cola. And people, like grocery stores that sell herbs, people used to use herbs a lot back then, including marijuana. And they would buy Coca-Cola syrup, which tasted like Coca-Cola syrup today would taste, okay? And it had cocaine in it, and they would take a spoonful of cocaine, and they would eat it. It was sweet, or they put it in water or a drink and mix it in and drink it. And women used it routinely for menstrual cramps because it relieved the cramps. It was normally used for that. And they didn't have the powdered stuff, which is junk, you know. And they weren't injecting it, and they weren't snorting it. It was taken by mouth, pretty much, or they could do it by what's called rectal insufflation, but I'll leave it at that. And they also had opium. So wine was sold commonly in America with cocaine in it. And that would settle the stomach. Cocaine was used to stop indigestion. So Coca-Cola was like an Alka-Seltzer type thing. You know, you got an upset stomach, you take the cocaine and it would numb your stomach for a couple of hours, and your upset stomach and bellyache wouldn't bother you. And then by the time the cocaine wore off, your stomach would be much better, or you re-administered the cocaine for another 2 hours, and then it would go away. And I imagine they got a stimulating effect, but I don't think it was that much. Now, if you did a lot of it, you know, you took the Coca-Cola syrup and you put 6 teaspoons in a glass and mixed it with water and drank it, you probably would get the effect, you know. But I think it's mitigated when you put it through the stomach. It's not as much of a punch as if you would inject it or put it in your nasal mucosa. So that's what they did in America. So people would go out and drink wine, and they probably put it in hard liquor too, I assume. Why not? And it wouldn't give them an upset stomach from drinking a lot. And then they would probably go to restaurants and get some cocaine wine. I mean, it was common to have cocaine wine. They would go to the restaurants and have cocaine wine, and they would eat. And probably the amount of food they consumed was way down because of the stimulant effect, and they would be able to drink probably double to triple the amount of wine they would normally drink. So America had that. But anyway, back to the God. And this is a stimulant that they take, and yeah, they make some. I don't know if it has psychedelic effects, probably to some minor extent, but yeah, it makes them jittery and nuts. You remember, Americans in the Vietnam War were giving anti-fatigue pills to the soldiers in Vietnam, and they were able to go out on patrol in the bush and stay awake for 3 days because they're stuck in the jungle, and they were not really in the mood to go to sleep, you know. So they would take these stimulants, which were probably benzodrine, dexedrine, for 3 days. Then they would come back to the base, and they would collapse, and a lot of them would sleep for 24 hours or close to it. They would probably take a shower, grab a few beers. Beers were all over the place in the bases, and the beers probably reduce the jittery effect. Eat a little bit of food, probably very little, and then start sleeping. And then some of them probably slept 10 or 12 hours and they were rejuvenated enough. Then they would take a shower and a shave and go to the mess hall and eat, and then probably go back and go to sleep for another 3, 4 hours, this sort of thing, build up their sleep. And they had a few days at the base and then they'd go out again and do it again. But these guys were not taking the speed all the time, they just took it, when they were in the field. Probably the first day out, they didn't need it. And then the second day and the third day, they took it. Is what I think they probably did. And then they were also in survival packs for aircraft and ships. Air Force and Navy uh, airplanes and boats had, if you had a ditch in the ocean, they had a big life raft. Well, a plane would have usually 2 or 3 of those, and when the plane would land on the water, it had a few moments till it would sink usually, and they would, the crew would throw, and sometimes the crew was 12, 15 guys. They would throw these life rafts out through the doors in the water, and they would then get out of the plane and go to the life raft. Probably they had a couple of guys go and stand out on the landing gear of the wing or something while they threw the rafts out, and they handed it to him or whatever. And then they'd open the raft. They had like a cartridge of air in there or something, and it would just blow up and float. And they had a big box inside there that had survival gear, and they had a few containers of water for them, a signaling mirror to signal a plane. They had compasses, fishing lines, if you could believe that. They had them. They used to give them lifesavers. So lifesavers didn't use up a lot of water. Then they would give them a little bit of carbohydrates and sugar. And they had some food, but maybe enough for the guys to eat for 4 or 5 days. That was a week at max. It was a pretty big box they had, and they had salve for the sun. They had antibiotics in there, and they had anti-fatigue pills and bandages and signal radio, all kinds of cool stuff, And the same thing was on boats, They had lifeboats, and they would have this stuff in there with the anti-fatigue pills. And I think they still use them to some extent. I think it still goes on. And some of the kits had morphine pills too. I don't know if they ever stopped that later on, but they had morphine pills too. So they were really for the guys to stay in the life raft for a short period of time, a few days, because the plan was they signaled they were going down and they had search and rescue look for them, and it was to keep them alive till search and rescue got there. It wasn't for a month. I mean, so if they didn't get rescued after, probably 5, 6, 7 days, depending they would be up the creek. Now, some of the guys on the planes had extra kits, so they would throw the extra kits out, and they would have more food and more medical and more this and more that. But the game plan was if they didn't get rescued in a few days, they would be in pretty bad shape. They didn't have 10 gallons of water in there or anything like that. So they would have trouble. They could evaporate the water and get the salt out and make some water to drink. If it was sunny, it would be minimal, but probably enough to keep them going a little bit, Anyway, so back to Yemen. So Yemen's time has come because it's a threat to Saudi Arabia and also could be a threat to UAE and Jordan. It's a very bad threat. Yemen might decide they want to go help Syria, although I don't think at all. Well, they may decide they want to go help Iran overthrow Syria one day, but I don't see that coming. So Yemen is a bunch of idiots, and they're attacking the shipping for what, better than a year. And now that they got Hezbollah neutralized and Gaza, Hamas neutralized, and Syria neutralized, it's time to neutralize Yemen. Yemen may get ultimately destroyed. It may not have a temporary gap period because they're not on Israel's borders as we have the land now, so they may get wiped out. Which I doubt would be by a ground invasion, unless they tried ground invading Saudi Arabia. I think it would be more or less lots of bombings, power, what would go, the ports, the piers, the electric generators, all their radars, all their airports, all their military bases, all their Navy bases. Then maybe their oil refineries, because they do have oil. And by then it would be a mess. The cell towers would be out because no power. The water may not be flowing correctly because of no electricity. The internet would be out, no electricity. They may cut the cables. And if they cut the cables, they damage the SWIFT system. And they're not hard to cut. And Yemen's right where the cables go, on the southern border of Yemen and the western border on the Red Sea. Sea of Aden, I think, is the southern border. So they can definitely do that, and that would cause many nations to want to join in and put an end to Yemen. Now, on the road to Iran, we got to consider Iraq. Iran told Iraq, you keep your border fortified with Syria. Iran is afraid because Iraq has a land border with Iran. So in other words, now Syria has a friendly government to America and almost to Israel. They're saying they have no intention of fighting against Israel or assisting or helping any other country use Syria as a launching pad to attack Israel. So they are, walking around in a paint job, okay? So would they let Israeli troops attack Iraq from inside Syria? Probably. We're already in Syria with lots of convoys and tanks, so maybe they're going to be deployed to Iraq. Or maybe new tanks will come in, and we may help them. But these rebels in Syria are maybe 70,000. They need help, okay? America and the UK would have to give them air support, which they will do, plus Israel. So how would the attack on Iraq work? Well, standard operating procedure. The first move is knock out any radar that they have in Iraq that's functioning. And they have radar, but I doubt they have a lot. That might take 2 or 3 days of attacks. Now they have no capability to launch guided missiles. They can launch junky terrorist missiles like Katyushas all they want, which are not aimable. You just pot shot with them. It's like hitting the wall of a barn from inside the barn. You're going to hit the wall, but you don't know where in the wall you're going to hit it. They still have artillery, they'll still have mortars, machine guns, tanks, and they have aircraft. So then what comes next? The missiles, air defense and other kind of missiles get bombed. Another 2-3 days. Now their troops are at the border with Iran-backed militia troops that ran away from Syria are over there helping. So if the HTS rebels running Syria just try to push up against the wall with tanks, artillery, machine guns, they dug concrete walls, they dug trenches, ditches, moats, whatever. I don't know if they put water in them. It would be a bloodbath for the rebels. They would take a lot of losses, and it could be risky. So they're going to back it with airstrikes. Israel, America, UK. And they'll start with the radar and then the missile systems. And if the troops on the border between Iraq and Syria don't run away and disband and take the uniforms off, and, stuff like that, they're going to probably be attacked on the ground from the HTS in Syria. Thus, they're going to be played as a puppet state to attack Iraq. And I don't know when this is going to happen. I think they're going to look at what's going on with the Houthis first. Iraq is not in offensive mode against Syria, they're defensive. But that could change because Iran could bring weapons in and troops in large quantities and psych Iraq up to try to take Syria back. This is a very real threat. Iran probably has close to 1 million soldiers, and they could easily slice 100,000 off, and combined with the Iraq military and the Iran-backed militias, they could probably get up to 250,000 soldiers with hundreds of tanks, maybe 200. They could try it. Hoping some of the pro-Assad people still in Syria help them, perhaps. It's a threat. So they may not want to wait very long to knock down Iraq. It could happen at the same time as Yemen. It could go down at the same time. They could easily handle it. So I'm not sure on the sequencing and the timing, but it'll happen, and then they're ready for Iran. And Iran is violating the IAEA blatantly and openly, and they tell Iran to stop, and Iran's been threatening to nuke America, Europe, Israel, blah, blah, blah. Well, we got to eliminate the nuclear threat. They're going to bomb the nuclear facilities, and if Iran sits still for a lot of things, they might survive, but they're not going to sit still, and then they're going to start attacking Iran, and Yemen will be able to see, as will. It doesn't say Runasi. Yemen will be, which is Iran, it's going to be busted up so bad that people are all going to leave. Jeremiah 49. So I think we're in the very, very days of this is going to happen, which precedes Daughter of Babylon. Now, the Arab nations are going to see what happened. And America, Israel, and the UK basically re-stabilized the Middle East in favor of America and NATO. And they're not going to like it because there's going to be more exploitation of the oil. and there's not going to be a BRICS. And Russia, in the meantime, is already being dealt with. What did Ukraine recently do? Well, a couple of days ago, they did a sabotage event inside Moscow, blew up some building dealing with chemical weapon defense and stuff, and they killed the top general. And Russia said they caught the guy, and Ukraine paid him $100,000 to do it, which is not a lot of money. There's rumors that Ukraine is selling body parts on the black market, assumptively from the Russian soldiers that are dead. I don't know if it's true. I heard it from a source who probably wouldn't have said it if it wasn't true. So they used their long-range missiles again to take out another Russian oil refinery. So they're hitting Russian oil refineries at the rate of 1 or 2 a week now. Now, you got to remember, what does that do? It helps BRICS because it knocks down the amount of oil that Russia can sell. They must have hit 4 or 5 refineries. It's got to be felt by Russia. Ukraine's a puppet of America and NATO. They're giving Ukraine, NATO is giving Ukraine 19 air defense systems like Patriots or Iron Domes. I don't know which one. Probably not Iron Dome. And that's going to help Ukraine defend against Russian missile barrages and attacks and drone attacks. And to some extent, aircraft attacks. And Russia's pounding, Ukraine's pounding Russia all over the place. Russia talked a good story with their hypersonic ballistic missiles, but they're not delivering and they're not crippling Ukraine with them. I would be rather assumptive that Russia is really losing the war right now in a big way. Is there a chance that America can work a peace deal with Putin where he gives up the land he took in Ukraine? Is there a chance they could work a deal with Putin where he keeps the land he already took? Well, I don't think Zelensky wants any part of that. And Biden has funded Zelensky for perhaps all of 2025 with enough money to buy all kinds of weapons for a whole year. If push comes to shove, it gives him the ability to resist Trump. And NATO may still keep feeding him weapons as well. So the idea there is what happened in Syria, to break Russia up into pieces or zones, and the oil and the natural gas in Russia would probably be administered by American or European countries. They just dismantle Russia. Then BRICS is dead. No Iran, no Russia, no oil, and then BRICS will die on the vine. That is their plan for the Middle East. So they're working against Russia full time with Ukraine. That has not stopped. They're intensifying their attacks in Yemen, along with Israel. They're not doing anything yet about Iraq. They may be waiting, giving more time for the HTS to get a tighter grip in in Syria. Russia has pulled out of Syria, and that he's going to more than likely abandon the Navy base there. So Russia's out of the picture in Syria. They're not saving anybody. It's essential to secure this so-called victory in Syria, where America has the air bases protecting American oil companies, pumping the oil, and also protecting the Kurds. And Israel has their buffer zone there, and Turkey has their buffer zone there, and the Turkish-backed troops. And Turkey and Russia have had a good falling out over the Syria thing because Russia wanted to be in Syria all these years. Their only Navy base in the Mediterranean. And they moved most of their weapons to Libya, so they're setting up shop in Libya. Russia had a big loss in Syria, don't kid yourself. And Russia's taken very, very bad losses in the war with Ukraine. Very, very bad losses. And Trump is a month away. So when the Arab states, the Muslim states of the world realize what America did, this is post-Iran goes bye-bye, they are probably so scared they say we got to get rid of America. Whoever's leading America got to go. Because if we can't keep a tight grip on the oil, they're going to bust us down, turn us against each other and everything else. So that's really what you got going on here. The people are not quite aware of it. But you got Yemen and Iraq, and then it'll be Iran. And then after Iran, probably the daughter of Babylon will get it. Because the Muslim states are going to get really scared when they see what happened to Yemen and what happened to Iran. I'm thinking. So the view from here seems to be that Edom or Yemen, whatever you want to call it, or Taman, they call it in the Israeli press, which is the same place, is on the way down now. They're not yet circling the drain. They're almost circling the drain. And then it leaves them, the Red Sea opens back up, and the water underneath Yemen opens back up, and Yemen will probably cut the internet cables, and that'll infuriate the people. More nations will join in, and they'll bust it up, and then probably go to Iraq, or maybe simultaneously. America, Israel, and the UK can handle both at the same time. But they may not want to. They may want to get rid of the Houthis. It'll help with a lot of psychological value on Iraq and get a lot of them to defect, just throw their uniforms away and make believe they're civilians and stuff like that. So that's where we're at. more war, more wars for Trump to inherit. I don't see anything blowing up with China and North Korea right this minute. I think China's holding back. So's North Korea. They're bracing for Trump. I don't think they want to get into anything right this minute. South and Central America, I don't see any major disturbances. Africa, I don't see any major disturbances. So that's what I think is going on. Maybe I'm right about that. Isaiah 61. I'll read it to you again. I use the word maybe. I think I might have it right, but let's see. It starts, this is also part of it found in the New Testament. The spirit of Adonai, Jehovah, the Lord God Jehovah, Lord Jehovah, whatever, it doesn't all that great, is upon me, because Jehovah hath anointed me, and the word for anointed is Mashiach, okay? So it's saying Jehovah hath Mashiach me to preach good tidings unto the meek. He had sent me, because the rich don't listen. He had sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives. He didn't free them, he proclaimed liberty to them, and the opening of the prison to them that are bound. He proclaimed it, he didn't do it. And that was when he died at the crucifixion, and he went down to them there and he preached to them. Okay, he didn't preach to the bad ones. You know, he did. He preached to the Israelites that were in what they call the pit, Kahana, where it's very thirsty, to have no water. He told them that one day they would be coming out, and that day is the day of redemption. When he appears in the clouds, they'll come out. Now, of course, the church doesn't teach that, and they find it silly and stupid, but that's their fault, not mine. That's Ezekiel 37, the first half. To bind up the brokenhearted, and remember, it also talks about the temple in Ezekiel 37. It also talks about the two sticks, one in his hand. Well, the two sticks, one in his hand, is the 10 tribes that are now coming back, and they woke up, they know who they are, and they're coming out of the pit. And the ones that come out of the pit by no means have a spiritual body, because it says he puts the cartilage on them and the flesh and bones and all that. And where do they come? They come to Israel. And these are people that died many, many, many centuries ago. And that is what he's talking about, to proclaim liberty to the captives. Well, actually, liberty to the captives is more like liberty to those living in captivity. Let me stand corrected, sorry. In the diaspora around the nations, okay? Because we're discriminated against all over the place. Look at the rise of anti-Semitism. And the opening of the prison to them that are bound. Well, you could say that he's opening up the prison for the Jews, but I believe what he's talking about is those where he preached to for the 3 days, because he said he proclaimed liberty, but nobody got freed at that time, and nobody walked out of the jails except the apostles when they got locked up. But that's not what he means. So he's talking about the ones he might preach to, because he was sent there to preach to them, and they're going to come out in the year of redemption, which is extremely close, days and weeks away, to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord. Well, that is sort of a dual meaning. A Jubilee year is an acceptable year unto the Lord, because every man gets reunited with his family, so the dry bones are coming out. How about that? And that could mean the two sticks in one hand, and Elijah's going to turn the hearts of the fathers to the sons. You got it? Where are the fathers in the pit? They're not fathers from 30, 40 years ago. They're fathers from 1300, 1900 years ago, that kind of thing. Okay? But you see, the way the Bible teaches us, you know, like with the parable, well, the story Yeshua told with the rich man and the beggar went to Abraham's bosom, and the rich guy was in the bad place with no water. And Abraham was referring to the rich guy as his son. I'm a descendant of Aaron, the sons of Aaron. Even though it's, because, you know, numerous centuries removed, it still works that way. The Levites, the son of Levi, just many centuries removed. Removed, is that the right word? But, you know, it works that way. So the fathers to the sons are the ones that are living here, and the fathers are the ones that came up out of the pit. I know it's hard for church people to ever get into this, but that's what it means. Okay. Proclaim the acceptable year, Jubilee year. Everyone's returned to his family. So the ones in the pits are coming back to their family. But this is a very special Jubilee year. It's the year of redemption. And also every man gets his inheritance back. If he hawked his property, he gets his land back. So the land that the Muslims are squatting on and pumping the oil is coming back to us. I keep telling you, you'll be very rich. Maybe because of the oil, maybe not because of the oil, I don't know. But you'll be very rich. And you'll have land, and you're not going to have a mortgage, and you're not going to have to buy it. Okay? And they're not going to have property tax and stuff like that. Okay. Proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord, and that could be a Jubilee year, and it could be the year of redemption. Now let's break the words down. The word for proclaim is kara. I think they're pretty okay with this on the translation. To call out, to address. It's okay with proclaim, I think. To proclaim the acceptable, and that word is ratzon, which is delight or acceptable. Let's find other places where ratzon is used. Let's see if that gives us some ideas. Exodus 28:38. And it shall be upon Aaron's forehead that Aaron may bear the lawlessness of the holy things which the children of Israel shall hallow in all their holy gifts, and it shall be always upon his forehead, that he may be accepted before the Lord, ratzon before the Lord. See, that's why the high priest has been done away with, because Yeshua bears the iniquities. That's no longer needed. But let's keep going. Let me see if I can find this in prophetic passages rather than just the law. Let's see if we can pick it up somewhere. Isaiah 60:10, verse 10. And the sons of strangers shall build up thy walls, and their kings shall minister unto thee, for in my wrath I smote thee, and in my favor, that's Ratzon, I had mercy. That doesn't help us a lot. Come up with acceptance, Ratzon, on my altar. Not helping. I'm not getting any what's called giveaway verses. Malachi 2, let's see. And this have you done again, covering the altar with the Lord with the altar of the Lord with tears, with weeping, and with crying, is so much that he regardeth no offering anymore, of receiving it with ratzon, with favor. No, it's not helping. Okay. All right, to a point. So then it goes on to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord and the day of vengeance of our God. So there we see the day of vengeance is tied to this acceptable year. Now, the day of vengeance is never tied to a Jubilee year. But if a Jubilee year was also, this could be interesting. And it may not be the case, but it may be the case. To appoint unto them that mourn in Zion, that's Zechariah 12, to give unto them beauty for ashes, the mourning, so they put ashes on, and old clothes, they rip the clothes, they sit on the dirt. The oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness, that they might be called trees of righteousness. My people's days shall be like that of a tree. Got it? Everlasting life. You got it? You got it? Did you get it? Okay. The planting of Jehovah, that he might be glorified. And they shall build the old wastes. The old wastes are not what Hezbollah destroyed 3 months ago, okay? They shall raise up the former desolations. Again, that's not what was destroyed by Hamas 3 months ago, or 6 months ago. And they shall repair the waste cities, the desolations of many generations. That's the old stuff, like Capernaum is that way and stuff, okay? Lots of places in Israel that way. So it's not talking about the damage that was inflicted to us recently, which wasn't that severe, except in a couple of areas like near the Lebanese border. Okay. And strangers shall stand and feed your flocks, and sons of the aliens shall be your plowmen and your vine dressers. Now, probably they're going to be happy to stay on as slaves or servants of some sort, indentured servants or whatever, I don't know, because it would be a lot better for them to stay in Israel as a servant than to be in their country that was busted out. Let us not forget Jeremiah 30:11 and Jeremiah 46:28. he will destroy all the nations that he scattered the Israelites into, and I make that to be about 125 nations. See the fit? But you shall be named the priests, the Kohanim of Jehovah. Men shall call you the ministers of Elohim. You shall eat the riches of the Goyim, and in their glory shall you boast yourselves. It's their wealth, riches, and stuff. They'll be giving this stuff to us as an offering unto the Lord because they will fear him quite a bit. Can you dig it? Okay. For your shame you shall have double. That's the double portion we get. Very favorable double portion. Very acceptable. And for confusion they shall rejoice in their portion, therefore in their rejoice in their portion in their land. What is the word for portion really? Their share. So you're going to get land for free. If you're in Yeshua, not Israelite origin, you're part of Israel, you'll come here and you'll still get land for free. You'll be incorporated with the tribe you sojourn with and be a member of that tribe with all your children and grandchildren forever and ever and get an equal share of the land. That's what it says in Ezekiel 47, the last three. Everybody tries to go against that. They'll get corrected, and if needed, doom and gloom, but I don't think they'll need anything more than correction. In their portion thereof in their land, they shall possess the double, that's the double portion, reiterated again. It means double everlasting joy. That's joy. That's Simcha. Simcha Torah, the holiday that was October 7th. Joy in Torah, that's when the attack was. It's a rabbinical holiday, Simcha Torah, not a biblical holiday, but you get the idea. Simcha, joy, Torah, the law, joy in the Lord. But they don't follow the law, they follow the Talmud. Go figure. They shall rejoice in their portion, in their land they shall possess the double everlasting joy, which you probably have to have everlasting life for. The word for everlasting is olam, which means from now on into the future indefinitely. Shall be unto them for how you're going to have everlasting simcha, olam simcha, unless you have olam chai, everlasting life. For I, Ani, Yehovah, love judgment. I hate robbery for burnt offering. In other words, people scam and fraud and rip off people, and then they buy a nice animal and sacrifice and say, look how holy I am. I'm holier than you, that kind of thing. And I will direct their work in truth. And that means he'll direct our work in truth. So we're going to hit the mark all the time and be successful. And I will make all the time, and I will make an everlasting covenant with them. An olam brit. How do you make an everlasting covenant with people that don't have everlasting life? Well, people don't understand the everlasting life. And John 6, verse 40, combined with Zechariah 12, verse 10, combined with Revelation 1:7, combined with 1 John 3:2. You can stop this, play it back, and look those scriptures up. And their seed shall be known among the Goyim, and their offspring among the people. So you're not going to have kids that are going to go around wearing the colors of the Hells Angels or the Mayans or whatever, crackpot, motorcycle gangs or other things. You're not going to have any of those problems anymore. And their offspring among the people, all that see them shall acknowledge them. Well, arise, shine, your light has come. Well, sure they'll acknowledge him. Arise, shine. Did I say arise, shine? It means emanate forth life. The role model for that would be Moses when he came down from Mount Sinai. And they had to put a veil on him because he was glowing. That they are the seed which Jehovah hath blessed. Okay, they're not going to wear a cross or say they were a member of the Church of God or the Assemblies of God or the Lutherans or something like that. It's going to be something you can't imitate. Okay? He runs all the demons out of Israel in Zechariah 13. There's no false believers in Israel running around. The false believers that are here now are either going to become believers or they're going to go bye-bye, dirt now. I will greatly rejoice in Jehovah. My soul shall be joyful in my God, for he hath clothed me with the garments of salvation. He hath covered me with the robe of righteousness, and a bridegroom decketh himself with ornaments, and a bride adorned. Okay, so I don't know for sure if the year of redemption is going to line up with the Jubilee year. If it really is going to be a Jubilee year, the year rotates around mid-February this year. So you're talking 2 months. Now, the term for year in a Jubilee year or a Yovel year is normally Shana, which is a year. It's a 12-month period. The year of recompense is the year of redemption is a Shana, which is not the plural for year. It's a special year, like you shall take the lamb in 1 year, or I think it says in the first year. Well, when the lamb's 9 months old, it's not in the first year. When a lamb is 27 months old, it's not in the first year. When a lamb is in month 12 to month 23, it's in the first year. So it's an indeterminate, it's not a 12-month literal, it's about a year, you might say in English. It's a very funny word. Yes. Okay, so the Jubilee year is a year. I'll go find that for you. I think we could pick it up in Leviticus 23. Let me see if I could use the search on this. I don't know. It's usually a lousy search, but let me try it. Let me use Google to do the search. It's just, I don't know. I don't want to read through Leviticus 23. I could go faster, I think. Oh, it's Leviticus 25:11. Okay, we'll get it there. A jubilee shall that 50th year be. See, here the word is shana, which is a literal year. Now let me check it in the Hebrew text just to make sure. Just to make sure. No, it's Shana. Hmm. Now I'm a little confused. Let me see if I can get some clarification on this. Oh, wait a second. That's why I was confused. Okay. Hang on. See, it's a Jubilee year. It's not a Jubilee years. So it's not a plural. No, I'm in the wrong place. Let me get back. Hang on. This is not helping me. Um, I want to try to dig into the bottom of this for a minute, guys. So hang on. Um, hang on. I'm a little confused why this word is used there. I'm not going to stay here all day on this. I just want to see if I could get a quick understanding why it doesn't say Shana. This is not a plural year. What? I'm not understanding this really. Let me try again here in Hebrew, see what I get. Yeah, it keeps saying Shana for a year. I don't understand. The Shanim, which is years, like you would say if you were 50 years old, you would say Yeshli Hamishim Shana, Shanim. I don't get this word. I need to dig it into it deeper. It's something that they don't talk about. And when I read in like this language work, it shows me the word Shana for the Strong's number, but when I look in the Hebrew text, it says Shanat. So I don't understand what's going on here. Okay, I need to get more clarity on that. I think my first understanding of it is it's an indeterminate year. It can be more than 12 months. Could a redemption year be more than 12 months? Well, possibly because they announced it on Yom Kippur, which is in the fall, and it would be coming up in February or March, depending on how the calendar is going with the moon and all that. So maybe that's the explanation, but I don't think it starts when they announce it. I need to explore this a little further. That would explain it, okay? Because they blow the trumpet and announce the Jubilee in the Yom Kippur, which, why would they announce it in Yom Kippur if it was over in February? That would make not much sense to me. It would be a brief period of time. Calling it a year because I don't know what else to call it. It's not an exact 12-month year, but I don't know about that. That's one explanation that could be it. I don't know yet, you know. Maybe that is the case, that they announce it in maybe like September or October or August or whatever when Yom Kippur is. Let's assume September, and then it's over when the year rotates. So maybe that's when the people have to do it. So they're calling it a year, but it's not really a year. that means we have to look at the Jubilee year differently, because I was always assuming they would announce it on Yom Kippur as a sign that the year's coming up. Maybe that's wrong, because then you're going from, let's say, September, just to pick a time, for Yom Kippur all the way out into February or March, and people could forget again. So maybe, see, I'll find it for you. I was unprepared for this, but maybe the Lord's trying to teach us something, okay? All right. Count off 7 Sabbath years, 7 times 7 years, so that the 7 Sabbath years amount to a period of 49 years. Then have the trumpet sounded everywhere on the 10th day of the 7th month, on the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur. Sound the trumpet throughout your land. Consecrate the 50th year and proclaim liberty. I better get this in the right translation. So where am I at? Leviticus, it doesn't give you the verse. Oh, it does. Leviticus 25:8. Let's read it where I can understand it. And thou shalt number 7 Sabbaths of years unto, now that word of years, let's check that. Eight. See, here it says the right thing for years, shanim, in the Hebrew text, which is years in the plural. And then it goes on and says shanim again, for years. And then it uses shanim again. And then in the last word it says shana, which is years. You see, let me get back into the English. This is crazy. It's very difficult to understand what's going on. And the space of the 7 Sabbaths of years, that's shanim, plural for years, shall be unto thee 49 years, and that's the plural for years. Then shall thou cause the trumpet of the Jubilee to sound on the 10th day of the 7th month in the day of atonement. Now, it doesn't tell us. Let's go back. That's on number 7. So it's talking about the 49 years. So I guess when you're talking about the Yom Kippur, it's not in the 49 years, it's in the 50th year. Well, let's keep reading. And you shall hallow the 50th year. Okay, that's verse 10. Let's see what that says in Hebrew. Sorry about this, but I want to dig deep into it so it's understood as best we can. This is, I think, ancient Hebrew, and it's not been understood by most of the people. Shanat, it's saying Shanat here. And then a few words later it says Shana. What the heck? We're on to something here that I think has been concealed or never understood. We need to pray that the Lord gives us the understanding of the Shana, Shanim, and Shanat. Please pray for that. So the 50th year is a Shanat. We proclaim liberty in the land unto all the inhabitants thereof. It shall be a jubilee, and you shall return every man unto his possession. See, every man goes back to his possession. That's the great Exodus. You got it? And you shall return every man unto his family. And that has something to do with the dry bones, of course, and being reunited with your family. And that could lead to you and your whole house shall be saved. Okay? Could very well come to bear, really. I'm serious. It could. I can't give you a written guarantee, but I think it would. A jubilee shall that 50th year be unto you. Verse 11. Now, what is that word? Shanat. I'm stumped, guys. For it is the jubilee and that's Cheval. The Yovel means the blast of the shofar. And when does the shofar get blasted? But on Yom Kippur, announcing the Jubilee. So the Jubilee references the blasting on Yom Kippur. So maybe it does happen from Yom Kippur to when the year rotates, roughly late February or March. It's the 7th month. So you have, part of the 7th month, of course, it's the 10th day, I believe. So you'd have part of the 7th month, and you'd have the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. So you would have almost 6 months of it. So maybe that's why it's using the term Shanat. That's what makes the most sense to me right now. please pray about it. We don't want to make a mistake. Explanation. In the year of this Jubilee, you shall, I think I'm right. Pray. In the year of this Jubilee, you shall return. Ay vey, what does that mean? I don't like what that means. But it is what it is. August 10th, the Lord told me we're in recompenses, which is a Shanat word. Alright. So going back to the lamb sacrificed in the first year means it's over 12 months old, but it's not more than 24 months old. Well, wait a minute. When it hits 24, it would be 2 years old. So it has to be less than 24. So you've got a big window. So last year, 2023, August 10th takes us to 2024. I think the Lord's showing us something, but I don't think it's something I'm happy about. So it takes us to 12 months is, let's just round it out to, because you got a 5-day difference between God's year and the Gregorian, that's rounded out to August 5th, 2024 is a year. And then we would still have 12 months. From that, 11 months basically, or just a day short of 12 months. So you'd have so the Jubilee might start this coming Yom Kippur. And if I'm right about acceptably year Jubilee year, then it wouldn't start until then. It means the Day of Vengeance could actually be Yom Kippur, actually be the beginning of redemption and beginning of the Jubilee year. Ay vey. This is a lot to digest, and I gotta calculate when I think the Yom Kippur is gonna be, and if it's gonna be more than 24 months, which I'm having a feeling it doesn't look that way. This is what I think the Lord showed me. So that means we've got a longer wait than I thought. It's not February. See, basically it would have to be before August 10th, 2025, or maybe August 1st or something like that, because you got to reduce it by 5 days a year. But let's stay with Gregorian for a minute. So roughly the beginning of August in 2025. See, but if the beginning of the year is going to be in February, then you got to March, to April, to May, to June, to July, to August, to September. So if I was right, the Jubilee year would begin in September. For more, if the year starts in March, then we would be okay to April, to May, to June, to July, to August, to September, not even to October. So it's maybe we're so far off on the months. This will put us back on the track, and this will be the tool that'll tell us where we're really at with the Bible calendar. Because I don't believe you're going to get it from the crops by itself. The crops could confirm it, perhaps, but God tells us that the moon and the sun are the times, the seasons, of the years, not the crops. I know people think it could be the crops. The crops could confirm, possibly, but God never tells us to confirm the calendar using the crops either. What about locusts, drought, frost, so forth? This hit me like a Mack truck going 70 miles an hour. I was not prepared for this. I did not study this. I did not work on it. I did not deal with it. I just got it while I was talking with you. And I think this is big, but please pray about it. When I ask you to pray about it, and I mean really pray about it, practically every time I get the answer. So that's our best bet. But I think we're really on to something big here. It's very hard for me to deal with having to wait this long. I want you to know, please pray for me that way, and pray for all of us that way. That we have the patience and the endurance and the stamina to wait, because this is ugly. And I know it's ugly for you guys in many countries, and it's ugly for me here. And when you know what's going to happen, and having to wait and be in such a bad way while you're waiting is very difficult. It's good news, but it's bad news because it's not happening so soon. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get a great fit in this with the dates and the calendars, because I'm often confused as if do we really know when the years start, because it tells us. I could read it to you. I think it's Genesis 1. Let me take a look. It's probably Genesis 1. And it directs us about this, and it doesn't direct us to the crops or the farmer's almanac or any of that stuff. Let's see if we can find it. Let me see if I could get this speeded up with the search tool. I don't know. It's a lousy search tool. All right, let me go through Genesis 1. Let me back it up, make sure I didn't miss it. I think I found it. And And God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day and the lesser to rule the night. He made the stars also. And God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day, over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. Now let's go back. And it says, and the years in Genesis 1:14. Well, let's figure out what that word means in Hebrew by going to the Hebrew. Shanim, the plural for years. Okay, that's what you would expect, and it's what I expected. This is something that has me confused. I think it means the year is not really a 12-month year. And maybe it means when the lamb is of the first year, it means that the lamb is not a year old. It's less than a year. I don't know. Let me see if we can get any insight into that. Ill prepared on this one, guys. Wow. Yeah, it's Exodus 12:5, I believe. Let's go there. Exodus. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. Okay, let's break it down. Male, the word for first is not what they're telling us in English. The word is ben, which is, it's a son. I would call it a son. So a male ben. What's the word for male? Sakar, which is masculine male. I don't think there's anything anything fantastic here. It's just saying a male son, and then it says first, which is not correct. It's Ben, so it's a male son year, which is the Shana word. You should take it out from the sheep or from the goats. And you shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month, and the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening. Take the blood and strike it on the two side posts on the upper post of the houses. Okay, so this is Passover. See, they translated a male of the first year. Let me see if I can get any insights onto this. Why did it jump on me? How do I go back? On the 10th day. Well, they're saying it's going from the 8th day of the Lamb's life to the end of to the termination of the first year. Let's see, they give me an example here. The firstborn of thy sons thou shalt give to me. That's on the 8th day. That's the circumcision. So it looks like I was wrong. It's during the first year. When a bullock or a sheep or a goat is brought forth, then it shall be 7 days under the dam, and from the 8th day and thenceforth it shall be accepted for an offering made by fire. Okay, I was completely wrong. So that's probably the right answer with the Shanat. The truth is hurting. But there's some phrase here the Lord reminded me of. Elijah has more time to work because Zechariah 12:10 culminates not necessarily begins, but culminates on the day of redemption when Yeshua appears in the clouds, which is looking like it's Yom Kippur to me. But I can't calculate the date with any reliability, so I'm not going to know the day or the hour. Neither will these other schmageggies on the internet either. How about them apples? Boy, we came a long way today. So unexpected. So maybe it's going to take Elijah a few months to get this going. Not only does he have to train the Levites, he's got to get the people in the swing to bring the offerings to the temple too. Think about that. All I can say is, Oy vey is a Machaya, which is Yiddish. It's like, Oy vey, this is a really good thing, like a miracle, but it's knocking me for a loop. And what brings us back to the acceptable year of the Lord? And when is that acceptable year of the Lord announced? But on Yom Kippur, the 10th day of the 7th month. I often felt it was too cold in February and very early March to be the 7th month, so I don't really think we know when the heck the 7th month is, kids. I know you're going to find people that think they know, and there's people that add months into the years, but rabbis don't know. I don't think any of us know. That's why I don't get so high. Hey, the new moon was seen, it's a new month, you know. Yeah, we should call the new moon. Do we know when the new moon is seen? Oh, that's rock solid. Yeah. Yeah, that we get right. It should be from Jerusalem, but we get it here in the Galilee. My wife does it, and other people in Jerusalem generally do it. And, you know, does it say it has to be from Jerusalem? I don't. It should be, I guess. But I imagine if you see it in the Galilee, you're going to see it in Jerusalem, unless it's a very unusual cloud cover. So if you see it in Jerusalem and Eilat, and you see it in, you know, Netanya, does it mean because they didn't see it in Jerusalem, it's negated? Because the Levites would stand on high places all over Israel and wait till the moon was seen by somebody, then they'd light a fire, and they'd all see the fire, and when the guy near them would see the fire, he'd light his fire, then the next guy near him would light it, and then it'd take a while, and then all of Israel would have the fires. And that was a feast day. So it's knocked me for a loop. Okay, let me see something in my notes. Got some prayer requests. JG, Jack Girl, JG, Jack Girl, JG, healing for the back, JG, healing for the back. Next, TG, Tango, TG, Tango Girl, TG. Fast recovery from carpal tunnel syndrome operation, pain relief. So TG, Tom Girl, had carpal tunnel syndrome operation, which is usually on the hand area around here or something. Pray for pain relief and a quick recovery for TG. And we have a prayer request for NE, Nancy Edward, NE, Nancy Edward, N-E. And the prayer request is uh, relief and healing from allergies. N-E, Nancy Edward, relief and healing from allergies. Let's see. That's basically what I got. I got to go into recovery on this. Well, I know you all are going to pray and it works. My neck is probably in the 85, 90% better. My jaw still clicks a little, not much, but just when I do the broadcast, because I'm talking for hours, then when I shut my big mouth, it calms down and it gets good, and I hit it with the red light. And, you know, I was eating hot soup yesterday, and I burnt to warm up. I think it was, what was it? Split pea maybe, or mushroom, I don't remember. I think it was split pea, and it was too hot, and I ate it, and I burned my tongue, and I burned one of those, I don't know, one of those little roof tile shaped things on the roof of your mouth. I don't know what you call them, and it was swelling, and then I took the red light thing, I shined it up in there, and it's not completely back to its normal size, but probably 75% or 80%. It got a lot better. It doesn't bother me or anything. It didn't hurt. It just was inflamed. It burned. I burned it. Smart me. Let's drink some really hot soup. You know, I can't get real soup in Israel unless my wife makes it. She makes great soup, but I can't. You know, she's in recovery from what happened. I can't sit there and tell her, "Oh, make some soup today." So I got the powdered soup, which they sell in Israel. And it has trace amounts of, like if you get the mushroom soup, it has little pieces of mushroom, trace amounts. Or if you get the peas, you might get a little bit of pea in there. Or if you get the onion, that they put a lot of stuff in there. And there's other kinds, but I don't know. I also got ramen noodles, but I I don't know. I think the ramen noodles are polyester or something. I don't know. I don't like eating them that much, and the soup's not any good. It's just the noodles, and I like the soup and the noodles, not just the other. And I got miso soup. It's probably gonna have some of that today. That's not bad. It's a little watered down, but of course you could reduce the amount of water or put 2 packets of soup in. You can jack it up, and that would work. But the food here is not like like American food or European food, but you can get good food here. But you got to get into the swing of things, which is predominantly Arabic food. You know, but you got to learn. Like I've actually learned to like pita bread. Pita bread is a very low glycemic index bread, which is a good thing. And if you want to open it up, it's round, so you slice, you know, some of the top off, little sliver, and then you put your finger in. You got to learn how to do it, or you can put a knife in, not with a point, like more of a round tip knife, and you open it up, and then you could throw stuff in there, like cheese and sandwich meat and ketchup and mayonnaise or mustard or whatever you want. And I buy almond butter, and I put almond butter on the pita bread. And now almond butter slows down the absorption rate by pertaining to glycemic index. So you don't get that thing. Like I was watching a thing on TV, and they were talking about wedding cakes, and they were saying, "Oh, let's get a natural wedding cake because if we get the regular wedding cakes, they got all the sugars and high glycemic index. And people eat the meal, then they can eat a piece or two of the wedding cake, and they're going to feel good for a few minutes, and then an hour or 2 hours later, they're going to get the crash, and they're going to get tired and go home and leave the wedding early." So get a natural cake without that stuff. So when you move into the realm of the pita bread, you're in that area. Of course, rye bread is very good, but I'm sure some jerk outfit could put sugar in the rye bread. So you gotta get the rye bread, and the 10-grain breads are good. The Ezekiel bread, which I wish they sold in Israel, but they don't, is good. I always used to like when I was in America or other countries where they did Christmas. There's no Christmas in Israel. I haven't seen any Santas. You're not going to see any Santa in the stores. You're not going to see reindeer in the yard or the roof. You're not going to see Christmas trees or tinsel. You're not going to see, as Jackie Gleason used to say, how sweet it is. So I used to buy the Christmas cake. It's kind of moist and very dense, and it has pieces of candied fruit in it, like cherries and other things. I used to love that stuff. They used to mostly sell it around Christmas, so I'd buy 2 or 3 of them and eat it. I still like that. But that doesn't exist in Israel. And it's probably high glycemic index junk too. When you give kids high glycemic index, the same thing. They get a sugar rush and then a crash. You know, for some reason, I think it hits more acutely on older people, but not that much difference. But so I try to keep it down. You know, it's not good for you. So the soup, I don't think they say on the soup it's 100% natural ingredients. So I don't think it's that bad, but they don't put. I don't believe they put monosodium glutamate in there, which is real junk. I remember 40 years ago or so in San Francisco, there were Chinese restaurants saying, we do not use monosodium glutamate, you know. It was the beginning of the trend where most of them did, you know. So I don't know what else I can tell you. It's quiet here in Israel in terms of attacks and missiles, rockets, and drones. I mean, Yemen tries to rock the boat, but 99 point something percent takedown. They don't get through. So actually, the aircraft going to attack Yemen were in the skies when the missile came out of Yemen towards Tel Aviv, I think, the other day, and or maybe it was yesterday. And anyway, the Israeli jets on the way to Yemen to bomb Yemen, I believe it was last night, took down the missiles, or it was 2 days before, I can't remember. On the way to bomb Yemen, he took down the incoming missile or drone, whatever it was. So that was kind of funny. So if any of you want to talk to me about stuff, my email address is in the chat up at the top. And it's also in the description box, which has now been restored in the mysteries of YouTube. And my email address is on the lowest line down. It's Israel Giving, one word, Israel Giving with the digit 7 at the end. IsraelGiving7@gmail.com. You could write me offering information up at the top of the chat and also pinned in the chat, and it's in the description box too. So please pray for what I asked you for. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Pray for better videos. Pray for our animals and pets to be happy, healthy, and whole. They're all rescues, and keep praying for my wife to get better. She is. And pray for our finances, and pray for our peace and rest and calm and joy. And I gotta adapt myself to more time like this. But the saving grace that the Lord showed me is that it doesn't mean Elijah's not going to start working soon. And when Elijah starts working soon, I would think immigration to Israel is not going to be as difficult as it is now. I'm guessing, but I think it would be correct guess. And there's lots of believers in Jerusalem, and there are not lots of believers in Jerusalem now. The Messianic congregations aren't correct. And there's Catholic churches there, and Russian Orthodox churches there, and Greek Orthodox churches there, and Churchianity missions there, but that doesn't count. So, you know, I don't think it counts. Although they always have the right to repent and come around. So that's selfish for us. Good thoughts that probably have a good basis in Scripture. And none of us can really figure out how long it's going to take Elijah to train the Levites and also the Kohanim, and probably the sons of Zadok, although that may not materialize till redemption, but it would maybe take months. How long did it take for you guys to get, on the program of correct doctrine and all that? It didn't take that long. And we don't really go into the mechanics of the animal sacrifices. That will have to happen in the Levites. The mechanical things, and we have to, they need to know the weightier things of the law so they could administer to, to serve the people and settle disputes. I imagine when Elijah and Apostle John are operating, that the 70 councils will appear. They'll, of course, come from the Levites, possibly the Kohanim, probably the Kohanim, I'm pretty sure. So it may take some months. And then when all of the law is in gear, then the blessings of the law will come on Israel. But I believe they got to be bringing the sacrifices and the offerings as well. So there's going to be a lot of teaching about the law. And I just learned a big lesson about the law, the lamb and the Shanat year. It is an inexact year. It's not a 12-month, 360-day year, but now I understand it could be briefer as well as longer. This is a lost concept. If we did precisely know when the Yom Kippur was going to fall, it doesn't mean that that is the exact day Yeshua is going to appear, but I think so. It makes sense, but I don't know how we're going to figure that out. Even if we're sure he would appear on Yom Kippur, not a day or two or three after, or perhaps the day before or something, I don't know. Because the Day of Vengeance, he probably appears on the Day of Vengeance, which would maybe be before when he appears. So it could be that if we figure it out, we still would not know the day and the hour. It doesn't say we won't know the week. It says we won't know the day or the hour. We know the week. I don't understand if we could know the week. If we know the month, is that the same thing? I doubt that. Guys, I don't know. See, we're in uncharted territory. Now, Apostle John will know, because he was around when they were doing offerings and sacrifices. He knows a lot of stuff that we don't know. But what of the stuff they were doing there was erroneous as per the Talmud. You see, that's another problem with that. I sure would like to know what the seven thunders are with you, and he has that. So let's hope and pray that Elijah needs quite a few months to train the Levites before the offerings become acceptable. And the word acceptable may not be a coincidence. It may mean the same thing as the acceptable year. So there might be that there's a coinciding when the offerings are acceptable, Lord. Boom! That's the acceptable year. That's the Yom Kippur. That's the year of redemption. That's the year of the day of his appearing. That's when we get everlasting life. What I just did with that is probably true. So one bewildered Moshe here in the Galilee sends his shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. 3 hours today. We've been a period of time that I'm going to remember for a long, long time. So, the stuff I came up with is probably all true and probably going to have to wait a while yet, but we could look forward to Elijah. And that's, and Apostle John, and that's probably worth a lot. When Elijah gets activated and Apostle John gets activated, what do you think if they prayed for healing for you? You think you would be healed? I do. Do you think that you would get younger and all that? No. No, I don't think so. But I think you get the healing. And you get probably some good anointing hanging around under them, and we'll find out soon enough. So maybe we will be breaking falafel in Israel pretty soon. Remember my theory that when these ceasefires hit, they're not permanent because the bad ones are still in place in their countries, but the fighting stops. That would be the perfect time, in my mind, in my reasoning, and I think I'm right, for Elijah to start working and for the temple to come. And then things will get the nations. Because if you think Elijah and Apostle John aren't going to do signs and wonders that were never seen on the earth before, you're wrong. And the nations are not going to like it. And that's their problem, not ours. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this. It certainly was interesting. All right, I'm out.